Good afternoon, everyone. It's Chaz. It's the West Ham Irons channel, and it's been a little while, hasn't it, Frankie? But how you been, mate? You been all right?
I've been good. I've been well. If I'm honest, I'm enjoying a bit of a break. I'm
I was
enjoying a
about to
breather.
say that.
I
Yeah,
am. I
I
am.
my gas ran out around February,
I
pretty
know.
much.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I'm really happy, and obviously everyone's different. But on the WhatsApp groups I'm on, every half an hour football, I'm like, no, I just need a complete break and just need a couple. I know some of the boys are over in Germany and hearing all kinds of things, and but I just want a break, isn't it? So it's been a long season. I know you went to a lot of the great trips abroad, so that takes a lot out of you, doesn't it, as
Yeah,
well?
it
But
does, mate. It does.
so I thought we grouped together. Obviously, there's no games at the moment, and we do lot sort of get together once a week and see what's going on in terms of the transfer window. Which, first of all, we mustn't forget it's still officially closed. I'm hearing till the 10th. At the 10th of June, I think it opens up. And just wanted to sort of start off with the season that just finished. I mean, yeah, how did you feel about it? If you can remember what you thought might happen, what your targets were, and how, did they achieve them in the end? Did we, or just miss out, perhaps? Or how do you think
Well, I
we did?
think in the end, I think it was a good season. I had a lot of debate with people online, and you know,
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
can't have the word brilliant because we didn't achieve anything. We didn't. It don't matter. Getting to a semi-final, I don't want to sit here and in 20 years talk to me grandchildren and go, oh, do you remember that season I got to a semi-final? It gets forgotten about. Mate, I've already forgotten about the FA Cup final we got to. I've removed it from my memory. No one wants to remember an FA Cup
No.
final you lost. You just don't. And it was a good season. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the ride. It was fun. At the end of the day, we come up short, and there's a million and one reasons why we come up short, and we all know what they are, and they've been discussed 1,000 times. At the end of the day, it's time to move on now, mate. But you know,
Yeah, like you said, the year before, yeah, we missed out on top four by a couple of points, and then Europa obviously was in our hands, kind of, and you're right, our league form since January, yeah, not very good, not very
I
good.
think we averaged out about 14th in the end in terms of the second half of the season of where we would have been in a table if it was split into two halves, and that's not good enough. 14th from where we were in the position we was in, it really did fade away. A lot of people blame it on too many games and so on, and fair enough. I can take all of that on board, and it is just a massive shame that somebody said it the other day. I can't remember what pundit was, but they said, look, to get to a European semi-final takes a lot of work, and you never know when you're going to be in that position again. And you just don't. We might not be in that position again for another 30, 40 years. People seem to have it in their head that it's a given that we'll be back there again next season, or we'll be back in the Europa Conference League final. Or, mate, I ain't even so sure we get to the Conference League fully yet. You don't know who you're going to draw and what's going to happen. So when you get to these big games and they're must-win games and they're semi-finals and so on, you have to take your chance when it's there because you don't know when it will come round again. And we know as West Ham fans, we can have these great seasons where we get to this build upon
Yeah,
platform, and we always mess it up. We always mess it up. So it's
yeah.
for me, it was a shame, but I did enjoy it. I enjoyed every second of it. One of the most enjoyable seasons I've had for a very long time. So I can't knock it, mate. I can't knock it. But where I'm different, and it ties in with this transfer talk and so on, a lot of people saw this now as a build upon for next season. I didn't. For me, it's a rebuild job. We've got a very aging squad. Antonio's now 32. Cresswell's too old and past it. We've got an aging team. The squad for me has kind of peaked, and it was always going to be a rebuild job. And one of the biggest things that people missed, and why it's even a bigger rebuild job than people first thought, and why I first thought, is that you're going to lose your world-class captain within the next 2 years. You are. So we have to, if we've got anything about us now as a club, we should prepare for Declan Rice's departure, not in 2 years' time or when it happens, now. We have to start building that midfield and building the team and doing the acquisition that we need ready for when he leaves. So this window is so critical. This is the most important window, not just for this next season, the season after, but basically for the next 5 years, mate.
Yeah, I mean that website that I got up on the screen, transfermarket.com, it's listed and it's sorted by age. So we've got the second oldest
Yeah.
squad apparently out the whole league after Burnley. Newcastle, they're going to sort that out anyway, as we know. Yeah, so there you go. You're right. It's an issue. For me, the season, some great highlights in there. The Liverpool 3-2 home win, the Sevilla at home atmosphere for me. But it kind of, after the January window closed, it was always a struggle. And the shame is, and I did stick my head out and I felt that Europa was winnable when you looked at, I mean, like you said, if I told you, Frankie, Eintracht Frankfurt Rangers were going to be in the Champions League, reasonably great chance, wasn't it, to kind of do it, really. But ran out of steam, I think, a little bit, the players. I think it's been the same bunch for, 2.5 years together, 3 years, whatever.
Yeah.
I'm just a bit like, I've never seen David like that the last two, totally kind of losing it in the after sort of discussions after the game, and kind of, well, a bit late now, jumping up and down and blaming the players. And I thought everyone's done well. And you're right. How long are we going to have Rice, Bowen, Zuma as an example of the backbone? They're not going to hang around too long if we don't sort of, really, really do well, slightly higher up the league, and certainly win something, really. But that's what it is. I mean, in terms of market value, I mean, you can believe in it whatever you want, but again, we're kind of in the lower middle. What I wanted to ask you, because I love asking you straight up hard questions other people don't like, is got to mention 3 names. I don't know what our budget is. No one knows. You could say 100 million. I ain't got a clue what it is. But to top it up, there's 3 players who've had, should we say, up and down recently at West Ham in terms of form. And they're probably, and we don't sell players for a lot of money, as you know. Vlasic, we'll go into that a bit later on. We're probably going to have to take a loss on that if he goes. Would you consider offers for Jupe, Benrahma, Souček?
I think Benrahma's the real big one for me. And I know it doesn't sit right with certain people, but for me, if we don't sell him now, end of next season, we end up getting hardly anything for him. He'll be another one of those big signings that we end up getting nothing in return for if we don't sell him now. At the moment, he's still got some stock around him where I think we could probably get 20 million back for him, as an example. If someone come in right now and offered 20 million for him, I would snap their hand off for it. I really would. I think Souček's an interesting one. I think this contract thing that's happened at Christmas, something went on that we're all not privy to. And it wasn't just that we didn't sign players, but there was these new contract issues that were tried to be buried, but now it's all coming to light. There were some problems there. I don't know what I believe with Souček, but what I do know is his form definitely changed. You know, he certainly doesn't look like the player that he once was. If you get a good offer for him, and I've seen sort of 40 million touted around for him, well, I think that's fantastic money for a player who's, let's be honest, limited. I think, you know, he was a good player for us. Hammer of the year in his first season, mate. That's how good he was. He was a hammer of the year. He, you know, couldn't stop scoring goals from midfield. But if he's not the man that, you know, Moyes wants long term, and he's had a bit of a fallout, another season again next year performing how we did, or 40 million pounds to go and sign someone else, well, I'll take the 40 million quid. Diop for me is an interesting one. I think it's hard to sign defenders. I think the Leicester game that Diop played, I thought he was fantastic. He really did turn his form around, and he coped with the pace of Daka. I thought he coped with him brilliantly.
Yeah.
But then the next game, he don't get a look in again for the rest of the season. And if you're going to do that to him, if he's the sort of player that he's going to have a really good game, and then the very next game you're going to sit him on the bench and you're not going to see him again for the rest of the season because you don't trust him, then you might as well let him go, mate. These are the things, aren't they? We know Moyes has his favourites, and this is what worries me. Everyone says that, oh, we should have bought in signings in January. We should have done this. We need more squad depth. You can have all the squad depth you like. David Moyes has his first 11 he likes. He has the odd fringe player he likes, and they play every game. It doesn't matter how much squad depth you get. David Moyes will always find his favourites, and they will play game after game after game after game. You can have a squad of 100 players. It don't matter. Moyes will play the same team. He's done it all his career. That's what he does.
Yeah, I mean, one of those names just came to mind while he's saying that is Fornell splits the fan base a lot, doesn't he? He's one of those favourites, but
Yeah.
for a lot of people, A, we don't know what his best position is. B, sometimes we're not sure if he's brought anything to the table in some games. And sometimes he's leaving off, 2, 3 really good games a season. Being a bit cruel, but yeah, Liverpool was great in that game. So he's another one, again, I think people get a little bit. And the other thing, obviously, if you're not going to use your squad, as human beings and players, we do have our... Look, Souček, you knew the guy needed to be taken out. He needed it, and wanted to Antonio perhaps at different times of the season, but there's nothing there that he wanted to bring on or change. And if you added up the loan fee, the salary of Lasic, Král, I will not be happy as a board member.
Again, mate, I said when Král got brought in, it was one of the worst signings in West Ham's history, and everyone went mad. Everyone went crazy. What are you talking about? What a load of rubbish. It wasn't just because of him as a player and his ability. It was because of what we needed at that time. We was desperate for a proper striker, someone who could fill in for Antonio when we needed to, who we could rotate with Antonio, could bring us something a little bit different up front when we needed it. And that massively was proven then through that second half of the season. I know Antonio didn't get the injury that we all expected, and that was, that was good. But at the end of the day, there were times where he massively needed a rest. He probably made noises more than anyone else saying how tired he was, how many games he played, how much it had taken out of him. He was saying it all the time. And we needed a striker. I think one thing that, regardless, in this transfer window, I just want to see, and I want to see moving forward. And you've mentioned some players there. I do find a little bit harsh at time on I used to be critical on these people because I was basing it totally on their performances. But we have got to start playing players in their right positions and the positions that they play in best and what suits them best. And, sometimes we're lining up, like you say, Fornals, he can be a wing back at times. Then he's an number 10 and he's a winger. It ain't fair on him. And, there's no doubt that he's got ability. And in terms of playing that sort of killer pass and assists, he's probably one of the best that we've got in that midfield. But he's just always... never gets a run in the same position, in the formation where he gets used to it in his best position. And I start to feel sorry for him. And, Vlasic, he never really played his favoured position. I do think he was limited as a player. I think it was too much money for what he was. I think it was a bad signing. And I think we just desperately needed a striker. So I think Vlasic, again, if you was to sell Vlasic now, what are you going to get for him? It ain't going to be anywhere near what you bought him for. Nowhere near. We can't keep doing that. We can't keep bringing these players in for 30 plus million pounds and getting 5, 6, 7, 8 in return. That in the end, you will have no money left because you're just pissing money up the wall, mate. It's no good.
Yeah, I think you're right, mate. Hi, Glenn. I hope you're all right, mate. We certainly do have a lot of signings that haven't worked out for us in the past. We've had quite a few that have stacked up. I understand that.
And my point was, though, mate, it wasn't him as a player. We've definitely bought worse players. And that what I'm saying was, at that time when we signed him, we knew we had European football. We had a lot of games in front of us. We knew we all knew everyone was just screaming, we need a striker. And then you went and signed Vlasic. And it was like, for me, it was like, what have we done? We couldn't have signed a worse player. He's not an out-and-out striker. He isn't someone we can rotate for Antonio. He's far too much money. It was in the context of where we are as a club in the top 4, fighting out for these positions, and we go and do business like that. That was the time to go and sign a proper striker, someone who was going to add goals, who was going to be able to come in and score goals when we needed them, to mix it up when we was in games. Like, for example, that second Frankfurt game, I know what happened with Cresswell and everything else, but across those games, we did struggle with creating chances. Just, we needed something a bit different. And for me, we just needed a proper striker at that time, and Vlasic wasn't the man. So that's the context it's in. It's not him as a player was the worst signing. It's, I think, for what we needed as a club at that moment in time, he was a really, really poor acquisition.
I think the issue is quite big, isn't it? When you look at it, I mean, goalkeeper, centre back, right back, left back, CDM, number 10, couple of strikers, that's 8 already that you wouldn't say no to bringing in. And if we, especially with David Moyes, I mean, if he struggles to bring in one, like which is what usually his average is, bringing one in. I mean, how's he going to bring 7 or 8? And even then, we might still be short. But
Yeah.
so many people have gone out the window. Yeah, Malenko and 3, 4 others have gone. I mean,
Mate, this is a
window.
rebuild job.
Yeah,
It's a
yeah,
rebuild job. This isn't a kick on from where we left off. This isn't a
yeah.
we've got the base to carry on next year and all we need to do is bring in 2 or 3 signings. What we need right now as a football club is a total and utter rebuild, mate. We've, like you said, second oldest squad in the league, players that are getting past it now and we need to replace. But the reason why it's such a big rebuild job is the lack of business we've done for the
Yeah,
past few windows. So
yeah,
you
yeah.
get to this stage where you get to bare bones, which we're properly at bare bones. You've then got some players who are getting a bit over the hill now as well. My biggest fear, and I do fear this, but I can see it coming already. Antonio is going to be our number one, like he's going to be our number 9 and our main striker again next year. He's going to be, and I that is 100% around the corner. And I just think it's madness for a 32-year-old for us not to be bringing in someone who is, going to be the future striker for West Ham over the next 5 years. I think it's crazy, but I don't think we sign a striker, a marquee striker, to go alongside Antonio in this squad in this window. I don't think we sign one.
The way I feel at the moment, you couldn't tell that we've had a good season. I just don't feel. Since January, February, I've felt miserable. I don't know why, and it's just so many things like that. I mean, I'm worried about um, Johnson. I'm worried about Johnson's future at the club. He's been in and out, left back, right back, plays 2 games, thrown out the team again. I mean, there's so many. I mean, no youngsters been able to come in recently either to help if you're not going to sign anyone. I mean, again, lots of people on the show. Well, Joe, why isn't no youngster coming in? Why is 1 or 2 on the bench and they don't come on for a few minutes here and there? Dana boy, hope you're right. What direction? Yeah, mate. I get excited naturally as a kid from signings. That's the only way I'm going to get excited. At the moment, I'm pretty down in the dumps at the moment. 2023 is the year where I think Sullivan can sell the club without paying that tax thing. We haven't seen any money obviously hit the club and transfers from the new Czech lad. We don't know what's going on with him, what type of person he is. There's a striker he had at his club that I don't know if they offered it to us. He's gone now to the German team, and he bad Leverkusen, I think. Yes, it's a massive rebuild, but then we've got no confidence. If you need a massive rebuild and you've got a mixture of our owners and the manager, what's the chances of being really proactive and just getting 1 or 2? I mean, other clubs, yeah, you don't even hear about negotiations. I'm not saying Villa do everything right; they don't. But you don't hear any rumours with them. Bang, Danny Ings
No.
done. They wanted 20, here's 25. We want it done today, and now there's rumours of Knife Agard. I don't know much about him. Centre back Moroccan. They're saying that they're stalling on bonuses. If the so obviously the way we do our business, the whole world knows that we're after a certain player. We're negotiating for weeks and weeks and weeks, and we're in a weaker position than last summer when we didn't sign anyone. So Spurs are in the top 4. Arsenal probably going to have slightly more money, perhaps, than us, and a bigger sort of level to come onto. I'm not sure. Newcastle, Villa, they're going to be after every player we want. So it is what it is. I mean, that's a list of a couple of the rumours you've got. Yeah, Knife, Agerd. I mean, I don't know much about him, mate. 6'3", quite lanky, quite sort of played in the African Nations Cup. If it's going to go up to 30, 40 million, then, well, I hope he's worth it. Maxwell Cornet, you've got him from Burnley. Lingard, that's not going to go away, mate, but can't see that one going in unless Benrahma goes and then he fills his boots, because I'm not too sure. You got Southampton, Chelsea striker. Where's he gone again? What's his name? Broja. But the thing with
Yeah,
Broja, Frank, he hasn't scored since Christmas, mate. I don't think he scored
no.
a goal. He's played in every game nearly, has not scored. Emmanuel Dennis, I liked what I saw at the London Stadium. He kept the ball quite slick, but again, playing for Watford, he had to play a bit deeper than expected. Got Joe Worrell, Ollie Watkins. His form's a bit down at the moment. So I don't know if there's anyone you'd like to see sort of come in perhaps this window that you really like.
It's hard because like you stop even thinking about it because you know nothing's going to happen. So you look at that list, and do I get excited by anyone on there? Not really. I mean, you've got a few people on there because
Yeah,
their teams got relegated, so they're thrown in the mix. I mean, Cornet makes sense as a left back. He's pacey, but that's about it. Lingard. I think we've actually done the right thing with Lingard. I think there's times where you've got to put your money up. And there are times where actually you got to think that's not a sensible move. And I think 180 grand a week or whatever it is for Lingard is ridiculous. And that will start to cause issues within the squad because everyone will be saying, well, why is he on that? And we're not on anywhere near that. So you just can't do things like that with a player like Lingard. He's not a marquee signing. He doesn't demand a marquee wage. There's the argument that because you're not paying a transfer fee, you're going to pay more in wages. All right, fair enough. But again, as soon as you sign him on that, you've got people knocking on the door going, where's my pay rise? So you don't need all that rubbish. Like you say,
yes,
Dennis, it's this Broha and Dennis. How many of these people do you see who come into a Premier League? They have that good start, scoring
yeah.
goals, or they have the one season wonders and then they fade away and you never see them again. That it happens, and there's not enough confidence from me in them or their ability that I saw that would get me really excited as being our long term signing to be our striker for the next 5-10 years or whatever it may be. Ollie Watkins, you're all right, mate, but again, nothing that exciting. It's just a real. To be fair, they probably ain't far off the mark. It looks like a David Sullivan transfer
Yeah,
target list.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
what it looks like.
Yeah. You got a few, obviously, what they regard as reasonably cheap compared to the modern day. Um, Wages, salaries, economy suffering. Everything's expensive. We're all day to day. Is what it is. But when you look at Villa and you got that Kamara guy, free transfer, been linked with him for a year, CDM, Marseille. I think they've chucked 180 grand at him. So I don't know where the real line is. Are we perhaps not paying enough when if you want to be top four, top six? Are we a little bit? You just got to, because fans don't care what we pay, but obviously we don't want to waste too much money. But perhaps we need to pay that touch a bit more if we do want to get players that want to come to us. Really,
It's really
especially
tricky, mate, because we are where we are, or we got to where we did through. People don't like it when I say this again, but I strongly do believe it, and I have to tell it how I see it. I don't think we've got there through massive amounts of ability and massive amounts of talent. I think we've got to where we've been the past couple of seasons through pure hard work, togetherness, and a squad that we're all fighting for each other and really trying hard for each other and working hard for each other. There's no question we've got class in there with Declan Rice and Bowen, but I think a lot of the other areas we're quite limited. If you start going and bringing in those, paying over the odds for certain players and so on, it will upset that balance of that squad, and it will be more difficult for David Moyes to manage that. So I don't know. I think there are other teams who seem to be able to do quite well on without having to break the bank. But when you look at a club, one of those clubs is Leicester. But the thing is with Leicester is they've got such an incredible infrastructure. If you take a player and you show them around that new training ground they're building, you're blown away. You
yeah,
look at
yeah,
that and you go, this is
yeah,
incredible. That's what attracts. Then you don't need to throw up loads of money because they go there and think this is a place that I want to be. The owners are fantastic. They've seen some successes recently. Leicester have built an attractive club for somebody to go and play at without chucking the checkbook at them. Our problem is you take them to that. How bad's that stadium looked, mate, throughout
yeah,
the
yeah.
the playoff that they had the other day, and then also they've got the whatever they call it, the charity game that they've got going on there as well. So you've got that, and you don't go around there and go, wow, look at this, and you go to that training ground. You don't turn up and go, oh, I'd love to come here every day. You just don't, and that's why we may have no
Mm.
option but to start trying to pay through the nose if we want a better class of player, because we don't do it in the right ways. So,
I think so. I think so. We definitely have missed a trick in the last two windows. And now the other thing is, how much motivation has Sullivan got to? I think he could be gone in a year or around that time. I'm not sure. Gold also obviously sold a lot of his shares to the Czech guy, and I don't know how much motivation the owners have got to kick on and invest, and because they never believed in tomorrow, did they? They go, no, no, we don't believe in youngsters. It takes ages. One comes along and in a blue moon worth some kind of money, but we don't want to spend too much. That's why their training grounds like that and things like that. But other teams, like obviously Newcastle, I don't know if you've read already, they're going to be. There's plans to move into a great ground in 3-4 years' time. They've got the Reuben brothers on board, who property investors. So they've got a nice bunch over there. So I think we got to definitely get 7 or 8 people in there, and just to calm the nervousness of the fans, just get a couple in. I mean, we could talk about each position. I mean, goalkeeper. I mean, is Ariolo coming in? Is he not? 7 million clause. What they're waiting for. Pope was one I really, really like, but I don't know if we're going to get him at whatever price, and if it makes more sense to bring Areola in. But then I'm just confused why Areola, after we went out, why didn't he just carry on in the last league games, the last 5-6? I didn't see what was going on with that. Stuart Pearce has left. I don't know how much hole that's going to leave in the coaching. I didn't used to notice him much on the touchline, to be fair, but obviously he's a good lad to have around, isn't he?
I'll tell you where you do notice it, mate. And again, this is what people seem to really quickly forget, right? David Moyes was one loss away from having the worst managerial record in our club's history. That's where he was. It only turned when he started to bring in, and he was allowed to bring in, his coaching team. And mate, the coaching team we've had for the last couple of years has been nothing short of incredible. Proper England international level, Nevin, they are fantastic, fantastic coaches. Stuart Pearce is a superb, superb football coach. The fact that he's gone only reiterates to me that whatever went on at Christmas, something weren't right. And something, that story of the players trying to get hold of Moyes to find out why no players were coming in, and then Moyes all of a sudden going on the turn and being a bit more angry in interviews, then all of a sudden people's form dropping, then all of a sudden, this something went on. Don't know what it was. Something went on. It got to the end of the season. Stuart Pearce clearly had said, I'll see it out to the end of the season, but I'm done. It got to the end of the season, and straight away, he's off. Don't underestimate what that's going to do to this football club, mate, because that is a big, big loss. And it just shows to me that something behind the scenes after that Christmas period weren't right. And I hope, and I really hope, that we can move on from that and put that to bed, and we can kick on again next season, have another fantastic season. I really, really do hope that. But I know something ain't right at the moment, and it's not. And it's not good.
Yeah, he looked a bit, like you said, Moyes looked a bit edgy, didn't he, in the press
Really edgy,
conferences?
mate.
Snappy, wasn't he?
Snappy. Every interview, all of a sudden, snappy, whingy, really not happy. And all of this, they threw him under the bus as well, the board, because they got players to actually come out and say, we knew there was money to spend. It literally got leaked to make it look like David Moyes didn't want anyone. I absolutely believe this, that it wasn't Moyes saying, I don't want anyone. But what Moyes was saying was, I don't want anyone on the list you've given me. There's a big difference. If they've presented a list to Moyes and said, these are all the targets that you can have, you can't have anyone else but the people on this list. And if Moyes looks at that list and goes, none of them can deliver anything for me in the back second half of this season, then he's got every right to turn around and say, I don't want them. I would love to have seen who was on that list. And I think if it was ever came out who was there, I bet everyone would have turned around and gone, he was absolutely right not to sign any of those players. And that's the difference. And I feel a bit sorry for Moyes that it was made out that he was the man who was like, there's not another player in the world that I want. No, it wasn't that. He just didn't want anyone on the list that David Sullivan presented to him. And then what you get is, mate, which has drove me absolutely insane over the past however long. Everyone told me about a year ago that David Moyes was now in full control of this football club. He was now in control of all the signings, all the training ground. He was in charge of everything that went on. Moyes is in charge. He's Souček was a Moyes signing. It was a Moyes signing. David Moyes definitely was the man who signed Souček. David Moyes is the man who wanted Vlasic. David Moyes is the man who wanted these people. Then all of a sudden, the form dips, and now all of a sudden, I don't know if it was Moyes who signed these players. It might have been David Sullivan, Well,
Yeah.
yes, it was David Sullivan. Moyes has never been given any control. Moyes has never been trusted with the purse strings. Moyes has never said who he wanted as players. Sullivan's still been in control of who's come in and out, and that's the reality of it. And that's why we ended up with a player like Vlasic, who was given to Moyes, and Moyes ended up not even really given a chance to, let's be honest. And if Moyes had seen him and wanted him, believe me, he would have been given more of a chance than what he was actually given. And that's it. So this is why this window makes me nervous, because I still don't think Moyes is in control. I think Newman and Sullivan will put together the targets that they want. I think that will be presented to Moyes. Then Moyes has got to go through that and pick out who he wants, and it'll probably go back and say, I don't want any of them. And it will go around in circles until the final parts of the window, and you get the scraps, what's left, and it will be signings for the sake of signings. And I can see it already, mate. That's what's around the corner for us, I'm afraid.
Yeah, I just get the feeling that Piercy might have tried to give his point of view and it wasn't accepted perhaps at certain stages of the season. And then you get a feeling that Rob Newman, I don't think David Moyes, he's still one of the old managers left. I don't think he wants to work with a director of football, but he pretends he does. But then he probably tells him, I want this type of player, this height.
Because one of them other coaches went. Who was the other coach? You weren't Nevin. There was another one who was David Moyes' assistant. He left due to personal reasons, which is what we've been told, and that might be true. But that's another piece of the jigsaw that has been removed. I can't remember the guy's name now, but it was David Moyes' main assistant.
Old chap, wasn't he? I remember now. I don't know if it's to do with where we lived compared to where we were. But yeah, you're right. So
that's a few pieces of the jigsaw puzzle gone now. And
the other thing is, and obviously you got to buy when you're kind of, your curve is upwards, you're doing well, you're confident, but we just missed that boat. And we were ahead of Spurs, weren't we? Like higher up, better competition than them, and we still didn't attract anyone. And even now, we haven't got a clue about these no one really knows who's coming in. I mean, you can even tell some of the websites are really just making anything up at the moment. I think he was offered perhaps Diego Costa, and obviously because of his worried about the dressing room with him. I don't know if he would have helped. It is odd. I mean, they chased Lingard all summer, and that's why Vlasic came in, because I think Lingard, gave us a bit of a merry dance, didn't he? Even now, like, he's not saying anything, staying quiet till the end, and then try to push something through in the last hour. Then we messed up that Colombian Zabate, wherever his name is, coming in from Atlanta, and because the admin person couldn't fax the forms on time, just for $5 million fee. So I mean, Ward-Prowse would definitely make me excited as a kid again. I'd like him in there, but our budget could be, I don't even know, 70, 80 at best, and then they don't want to part with most of that on one person. So, I mean, the other thing
goes back, though. We did say this, and it goes back to Kretinsky and the last window. There was a statement that was put out that the main ambition for the club right now is to clear the debt and prepare the club for a major sale. That's what the ambition is. The ambition was never to invest. It was never to buy players. It was never to try and kick on as a football club. It was never that. It was clear the debt, get the club in a good position to own the stadium, which that's moved on even further now that, the athletics committee have said they're going to move away from the London Stadium now. So that's all progressing. So don't be surprised if we see another window of just scraping by. The ambition this season will not be to win the Conference League, will not be to be top four. The ambition for this year will be to maintain Premiership status, to hopefully be around mid-table, to not have any fear of getting relegation. And that is the ambition for this season. That then puts the club in a perfect place with no debt, consolidated finances, in a position to buy the stadium, perfectly prepped to sell the club. And well, like you said, 2023, no more big payment needs to be made to the LLDC, and Sullivan can get maximum amount for his investment, and that's it. So don't. I know it's not what everyone wants to hear, but just don't be surprised if that's what happens
Yeah, I
throughout
mean,
this window.
don't forget in the numbers. You've got Declan Rice, who's a huge asset on the balance sheet. So he'll depends what they want to do with him next year, or well, next year they might have to. I don't know how many seasons he's going to stay, especially if we're not going to match his ambitions. Bowen, I mean, obviously England call up. He's in everyone's windows now. He had a reasonably good season. Zuma, I mean, he had his court case, and it is what it is. So hopefully he moves on from that. But for me, yeah, it just doesn't. Nothing really excites me at the moment. I just got to see one or two players come in. But like, I think it's going to be a case where people will come in, but it ain't going to be anyone that you're going to be really excited about. It's just going to be the key is. I mean, are they better than what we've got? Which David Moyes keeps on arguing about. But it's like we haven't got enough money to buy the players. Perhaps David Moyes wants, and we're just going to go around and around in circles. I think, and then you'll get these funny examples like Vlasic, which is really embarrassing for the club and the player, and Crowell. I mean, he's a complete joke. I mean, yeah, you just got to add up the wages and loan fee. And why did he stick around with us even after Christmas? I'm not sure what went on there. Apart from that, mate, the other interesting point, or not interesting point, is that the kit was leaked, wasn't it? A week ago, 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
It's different. I'll give it that. The sleeves are different. I mean, apparently it reminds you of the shirt when Morley and those guys played, didn't it, back in the day?
Yeah,
Martin
that's
Allen
right,
and
yeah.
them lot. The other thing that just crossed my mind, and I mean, you work with a lot of the sponsors and things. I mean, as far as I'm looking, I work with the bank, and I always thought, okay, we've got a stadium in Stratford. You can see Canary Wharf out the window. I haven't seen any banks buy any of the boxes. I don't see any sponsorship from the big money people down the road. Karen Brady is largely responsible for that. I mean, like shirt sponsors and things, you just don't see the big companies that come into West Ham. I know it's happening all over. I mean, Tottenham are still looking for someone to put their name on their stadium. It's not easy, but behind, I mean, do you see any on in terms of corporate? I mean, you more than not, you go corporate, you enjoy it, but obviously, from what my friends have experienced, it's way below what other clubs offer. You know, in terms of food and the experience, and it just. I don't think there's that many good people that run it. But they're not West Ham people either. I don't think a lot of the people in high up management, director positions in operations and things. I'm not sure how much they really care about anything. And Brady, what's she going to do? Is she going to leave and go into politics and start? I don't know. I'm not sure she's going to hang around. I think there's one more year left for those people. I think, and when you've got a year left, are you really bothered about what we do this window, mate? I'm not sure.
No, you're not. Well, you certainly don't want to put your money into that window if you've only got one more year left. That's the last thing you want to do.
It depends how they do their bonuses and what trackers they use for that, really. And yeah, you want to show good numbers. And that 40 million, whatever he gave, I think that all went back into the coffers, and it's Sullivan Gold. It is what it is, isn't it, mate? But yeah, window opens on the 10th, and we'll see what happens, really. But yeah, it's quiet at the moment. Spurs, yeah, they've already got the guy from Italy, didn't he? The Croatian, Perisic, I think is bought him. He's 33, not young, but again, he fits their model. So yeah, that's what it is, mate. So yeah, we don't know who we're signing. Everyone, we're kind of still up and down in our mind of where the club's going. I think it's a rocky road ahead a little bit. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what's happening at the moment. You know, if a really big player signs, I don't know, Rafinha, Phillips, not too sure. We'll kind of see what happens, really. Yeah.
I mean, I'm there with you, mate. I think this next season coming, I'm worried about. I don't want to be worried about it because we had such a good season last season. We should kick on. But I just don't feel it's going to have the same glory that the last couple of seasons have had. I think what the gentleman there has said, the mid-table finish, I think that's the best we can hope for next season. I really do. I think there's a big job. I think their departure is going to come almost one season too late for us. I think this was the season. I think if you would have sold the club in this last period, this was now the time that you needed somebody to come in and really want the best for the team, want to bring in good players, want to spend some money, show some ambition, and really try and achieve something, because you can go backwards quite quickly. And I just really hope we don't go too far backwards. We need to get through next season still having a bit of a platform. So if they do sell the club, that the people coming in have still got something to build on. I just hope we don't slip away completely and end up sort of, 14th, 15th and all that sort of, which matches our second half of last season. That's why you feel it can be a reality next year, that will be us, because that was our form for the second half of the season. So if we carry on next season like we did there, we're going to have problems. I'm just hoping the rest does everyone good. The players were desperate for a rest. They did need a break. Souček, it don't help that he's now got the Poxy UEFA Nations
Oh,
League.
mate, I
He's
can't
playing
believe that.
game after game there.
Yeah.
He plays like 4 games every international break, the poor fella. Like, he really does. And I do feel sorry for him in that sense, that the amount of games Souček's played over the last 2 years has been crazy. It's been too much, mate.
I think Rice Bowen played most of the 90 minutes. Got Germany, I don't know who's going to play there. But yeah, he just goes on and on these tournaments, really. But anyway, thanks everyone for joining, Frank. You're not going to take up too much of your time. But yeah, not much is happening. But we just wanted to reflect on how we finished the season, what went on, what could happen. It's going to be interesting, isn't it, mate? Interesting 8 weeks.
Maybe they'll surprise us, mate. Maybe all of a sudden these big signings will come in and we'll all be excited and ready to go, and the new season will be upon us, and we'll go and kick on again, and we'll get top 4. Who knows, mate?
We'll see, mate. But we all, like you say, we all needed a good break. So probably won't be doing too many shows, one every other week or one a week, I think, before we get back into it again. But for now, I think, I want to thank you, Frankie, for coming on.
No worries,
and
mate.
And all the people in the chat, and hopefully the next time we're on, perhaps next week, we might be in a better mood and more things might be moving along in one direction or another. But we see how it goes. So take care, mate.
See you later, mate.
Come on your hands. Take care.